The narcissist has mastered the art of discarding others with surgical precision, wielding abandonment as their ultimate weapon of psychological destruction. They've perfected the timing, the cruelty, and the theatrical elements that maximize their victims' pain while reinforcing their own sense of power. Yet they remain catastrophically unprepared for the devastating experience of being discarded themselves, not through dramatic confrontation, angry ultimatums, or tearful goodbyes, but through something far more psychologically annihilating: the quiet, irreversible withdrawal of someone who has finally seen them clearly and chosen peace over chaos. This form of discard inflicts wounds that cut deeper than any abandonment the narcissist has ever experienced because it directly contradicts their fundamental belief in their own irresistibility and psychological indispensability. The silent death of their psychological significance. The most devastating discard occurs when their victim achieves complete emotional detachment while maintaining external civility or even physical presence. This person has mentally and spiritually exited the relationship, closing doors within their psyche that the narcissist cannot detect from the outside but senses on an instinctual level. They stop caring about the narcissist's approval, stop hoping for genuine connection, and stop investing emotional energy in someone they've finally recognized as fundamentally incapable of reciprocity. This internal departure happens without announcement or explanation, making it impossible for the narcissist to manipulate, negotiate, or prevent. The victim's face remains neutral, their response is polite but empty, their presence physically intact but psychologically absent. The narcissist experiences the haunting sensation of performing for an audience that has quietly left the theater, their manipulation tactics landing in psychological empty space where obsessive concern once resided. The narcissist discovers they can no longer provoke emotional reactions. Not anger, not hurt, not even the desperate love that previously characterized their victims' responses. They've been reduced from the starring role in someone's emotional life to a minor background character barely worth acknowledging. This relegation to irrelevance strikes at the narcissist's deepest fear, confirming that they are neither unforgettable nor psychologically indispensable to someone who once revolved entirely around their approval, the mirror reflecting their own cruelty. When the victim discards the narcissist emotionally, they inadvertently mirror back the exact treatment the narcissist has inflicted countless times throughout the relationship, but with a crucial difference that makes this experience unbearable. The narcissist's discards were calculated power plays designed to create desperation and increase control, temporary withdrawals meant to be followed by hoovering that restored their victim's devotion. The victim's discard, however, is a natural consequence of exhausted hope and completed healing, making it permanent rather than strategic. This reflection forces the narcissist to experience the emotional abandonment they've weaponized against others, but without the emotional resilience their victims developed through surviving repeated abuse. They feel the confusion of wondering what changed, the desperation of trying to recapture attention that has genuinely evaporated, and the powerlessness of facing someone who has mentally categorized them as irrelevant. The narcissist tastes their own medicine and discovers they lack the strength to swallow what they've forced others to endure. The victim's discard carries none of the drama or cruelty the narcissist employed. It's simply the natural result of someone choosing themselves with the same fierce devotion they once directed towards someone fundamentally incapable of appreciating or reciprocating it. This makes it more devastating because the narcissist cannot frame themselves as a victim of cruelty or vindictiveness. They've simply been deemed not worth the emotional investment. The permanence that destroys their hope. Unlike the narcissist's strategic discards that served as manipulation tactics within an ongoing cycle of abuse, the victim's emotional discard is genuinely irreversible. Once someone has truly seen through the narcissist's facade, processed their pain into wisdom, and rebuilt their identity independent of the narcissist's validation, they cannot unknow what they've learned. The narcissist discovers that no amount of love bombing, promises of change, or manufactured crises can resurrect feelings that have genuinely died through natural emotional self-protection. This permanence creates unique torture for the narcissist because they're accustomed to being able to hoover their victims back through calculated effort and persistent manipulation. They've learned that most people's boundaries can be eroded with sufficient tears, threats, or demonstrations of vulnerability. But authentic emotional detachment creates an impenetrable barrier that their manipulation cannot scale because it's built from hard-won wisdom rather than temporary anger or strategic distance. The narcissist experiences the final blow when they realize their victim isn't engaged in a power struggle, isn't playing hard to get, and hasn't erected walls that might eventually come down. This person has genuinely moved on internally, treating the narcissist with the same pleasant indifference they'd show a distant acquaintance whose name they can barely remember. The narcissist has been emotionally discarded in the most complete way possible, not through hatred or anger, which would at least acknowledge their continued impact, but through authentic indifference that confirms their ultimate irrelevance. The discard they cannot escape. The worst discard the narcissist experiences comes not from someone who leaves in fury or pain, but from someone who remains physically accessible while becoming emotionally unreachable. A living ghost who walks through shared spaces but exists in an entirely different psychological universe, where the narcissist simply doesn't matter anymore. This person caused the narcissist's worst discard not through cruelty or revenge, but through the simple act of finally choosing themselves, setting boundaries that cannot be manipulated, and achieving the psychological independence that transforms the narcissist from an all-consuming presence into a forgettable footnote in someone else's journey toward authentic peace and self-reclamation.